Okay, Shalom Aleichem. I hope you are all well and had a wonderful Yom Tov. We're now back in the summer series and we're discussing, as ever, in the contemporary halacha series, a halachic topic that relates to the coming week's Sedra. However, what we're going to do today is discuss a halacha that relates not so much to this week's Sedra, but to this Friday, this Erev Shabbos. Why is that? Because we're going to be discussing shaving on Erev Shabbos on Rosh Chodesh Iyar. And therefore some yeshiva bachrim and others get very excited about this. Is it true? Are you allowed to shave this Erev Shabbos? We'll discuss that. But first of all, let's take a step back and just understand what the period of Sphira and the whole restrictions, what the background is to all of that. So if you're listening online, please email me at j.golker@gmail.com. I'll send you the handout. Or go to torahtoday.org and the handouts will be on there. A useful sefer, of course, is the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch to give you an overview of everything. And the Kitzur, a very beloved sefer in Klal Yisrael, in Siman Kuf Chaf Sivav, says the following: B'mei HaSfira, during the days of Sfira Somer, which we're now in, Meisu Talmidei Rabbi Akiva b'shleisha u'shleishim yom. Says the Kitzur that the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died over a period of 33 days. V'lochein noagim b'yom elu k'tzas avelus. There is some degree of avelus, of mourning during this period. She'ein noisim noshim ve'ein mistaprim. We don't have weddings and we don't take haircuts. And of course, there's the third restriction is that of music as well. Now, in contrast to the mourning of the 3 weeks, Sphira is different. And for example, one can make a shechionu. The Mishnah Berurah writes, and if you look at footnote number 1 in Tov Tzadik Gimel Sifkat and Beis, that you are allowed to make a shechionu in the period of Sfira Sa'omer. Okay, now let's take a look. There are three sort of different. There are actually more permutations, but there are three main permutations as to when we are noheg the avelus of the Sphira period, and it's often known as the first half, the second half, and then of course the third one is the entire Sphira, which is based on the Arizal. Let's take a look at both, all three of those. The first is Pesach to Lag BaOmer, known as the first half. The Kitzur says in box number 2.1, there are different minhagim, how you get to the 33 days, how you actually express it. Yesh mekomas nagin. There are those who have the minhag. That you count from the first day of Sphira, i.e. from the second day of Pesach, from the first day of Sphira Somer, v'lochein osrin ad Lag BaOmer, and that takes you till Lag BaOmer, or v'yom Lag BaOmer v'chein misham ve'elech matirin, and from then on it's okay. Now this minhag assumes, according to the Mechaber, that the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died during the first 34 days of the Omer, and according to the Ramah, the first 33 days, and that's brought in the Behalacha there in Siman. Where is it? Yeah, in Siman Tov Tzadi Gimel Gimel. Okay, so that's the first minhag, and therefore from Lag BaOmer, or for Sfaradim from Lad BaOmer, Misham Ve'elech Matirin Mipnei Shebiyoim Lamed Gimel BaOmer Posku Milamas, because they stopped dying on the 33rd day. V'lochein Marbim B'Ktzas Simcha, and therefore on Lag BaOmer itself we increase a little bit of Simcha. Ve'ein Omer Bo Tachnon, and we do not say Tachnon. V'af Shegam Bo Bayom Mesu Ktzas, and even though they did die on that day, Omrinon Miksas Hayom Kukuloi. The normal rule of Avelus is we apply Miksas Hayom Kukuloi, that some of the day is like considered like all of the day. V'lochein Ein Listape Oilisa Ad La'achar Shehei Hayom. One should wait until day breaks. The Mishnah Berurah actually says you should really wait till Neitz HaChama, which is a little bit later. V'lo be'erev, not the night before. Ach k'shechol Lag BaOmer b'yom rishon. If, however, Lag BaOmer falls on a Sunday, doesn't this year. Mistaprin be'erev Shabbos shelefonav lichveit haShabbos. If Lag BaOmer falls on a Sunday, then you're already allowed to shave from the Friday before that. Okay, so that's the first half from Pesach to Lag BaOmer. Now, of course, the first several days of the Omer, the first 7 days in Eretz Yisrael, 8 days in Chutz La'aretz, overlaps with Pesach, and there are no restrictions there at all. You don't get married over Pesach, and you don't shave over Pesach, but you can listen to music. And poskim also say that would include Motzei Pesach and also Isru Chag as well. Okay, now the second option is, what known as the second half of the Omer, is either from Rosh Chodesh Iyar until the 3rd of Sivan, 3 days before Shavuos, or the second of Iyar, which means the day after Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh Iyar is 2 days, and therefore it would take you from the second of Iyar to Shavuos, to at least Erev Shavuos. So it's box number 3, which is number 2.2. Yesh mekoyim shematirin ad Rosh Chodesh Iyar v'ad bichlal. There are those communities that are noheg regularly until Rosh Chodesh Iyar. Shehin Shisha also Yom, if you take that count 16 days. V'nisharim Lamed Gimel Yom be'issa ad Chag HaShavuos. And then the remaining period of the Sfira, which is 33 days from after Rosh Chodesh Iyar until Erev Shavuos. And Mistapim Erev HaChag, and you're allowed to shave, take a haircut on Erev Shavuos. Even those who keep the second half, on Lag BaOmer itself, you're allowed to shave and take a haircut. V'yesh mekom shematirin ad Rosh Chodesh Iyar v'lo ad bichlal. And therefore that starts on Rosh Chodesh Iyar itself, i.e. you can either count it from the second of Iyar, which is the day after Rosh Chodesh, until Erev Shavuos, or from Rosh Chodesh Iyar itself until Gimel Sivan, the 3 days before Shavuos, the Shlosh Shmi Hagbala. And either way, according to the second half, those who keep the second half, either of those two permutations, you're allowed to shave on Lag BaOmer itself. And then the third permutation is the Arizal, based on the Arizal and others, which is the entire Sfira Sa'omer period. I've got there in note 5, he says the following. This is from the Mishnah, I think. V'shem Arizal Kosu, this is the Shari Tshuva in Siman Tov Tzadi Gimel Sif Kot Ches. B'shem Harizal Kosu shelo listapek klal ad Erev Chag HaShavuos. V'chein be'igros haramaz shlefi ha'minhag harizal afilu yimizdamem bris milah ein listapek b'chol zman ha'omer. That even if there was a bris milah during the Sfira Sa'omer, then he was also knowing not to take a haircut then. Fine. Now, what about haircuts and shaving? Is there any dispensation for that? Is there ever allowed? So the answer is yes. Moshe writes for business or to avoid a financial loss, or indeed for a bris, then that is allowed. So the Moshe writes in Erechaim Chelik Dalet Siman Kuf Beis, he writes the following. Hine, im echad oisik be'ezem mischa, lemelacha. A person is involved in business, she'em lo yistape ezikno, if he doesn't trim his beard or doesn't shave, b'mei ha-sfira or v'yomim shebein yuzayim b'tamuz l'tishbav, either in the 3 weeks or during Sfira, yelo hefsid moment, he will incur a financial loss, oz muta, then it would be okay for him to take a haircut or to shave, ki lo nagu b'makom hefsid, because we are not knowing these minhagim of Avelus, or these halachas of Avelus in the 3 weeks, if it involves financial loss. Okay, that's talking about the 3 weeks. In the week of Tisha B'Av, she'asa medina, that's not al minhag, that's because of a din of the Gemara, in the Gemara in the Tanis, ein lahatir, that's Ramesha. And then the Kitzur says, in Sifres, there at the top of the next page, Hasandak, i.e. the person who holds the baby at the bris, V'hamoyel v'avi ben, the 3 main participants in the bris, the Sandak, the Moyel, and the Avi ben, Mutar listape b'yom shelifnei hamila somach le'erev kodim halicha lebeis hakneses. They're allowed to shave before the afternoon or the evening before the bris, before they go before the bris itself, so they can prepare and look their finest to celebrate the bris. Now, the big question is the topic of this year: what happens when Rosh Chodesh Iyar falls on a Shabbos, as it does this year? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Tov Tzadi Gimel Sif Katan Hey, often quoted this time of year. Even those who are keeping the first half of the Omer, Mikol Makom Im Chol Rosh Chodesh b'Shabbos. If Rosh Chodesh Iyar falls on Shabbos, Kivin sheyesh kan tosefes simcha, Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, you've got double simcha. It's not just Shabbos, but it's also Rosh Chodesh. Yesh lahatir listape be'erev Shabbos mipnei kavod Shabbos. You are allowed to shave on Erev Shabbos in honor of Shabbos, v'gam lisa isha, and also to have weddings bo bayom kivin she'ika hasuda yeh b'Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, because then you're actually the wedding feast itself, the suda itself will be on Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh. Now, where does Mishnah Berurah get this from? So they say that it's based on a mashmos of the Bach. I've quoted the Bach there in the next paragraph, you'll be able to see that. And he talks about the double simcha when Rosh Chodesh Iyar falls on a Shabbos. And based on that, the Mishnah Berurah says that when you've got this double simcha, Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos, on the Erev Shabbos, you would be allowed to shave. And indeed, that's how Ramesha paskins, and it's also brought in the Mikrei Kodesh of Rabbi Pesach Frank. Now, what about the Savah of Rabbi Yehuda Chosid? There are those who are noheg. Rabbi Yehuda Chosid, one of the great early Rishonim, has a famous will, a famous savah, and he lists many things there. There's a whole discussion whether it applies to everybody or it applies only to his descendants, but either way, be that as it may, there are those, one of the things he says is to be makbid, not to shave or take a haircut on Rosh Chodesh. What about those people who are normally noheg, like the Tzavor Rabbi Yehuda Chosid? So in the Dirshu Mishnah Bura, in the footnotes, he addresses that, and that's the last box on the page. Let's read that together. V'av hamakbidim al pi tzavas Rabbi Yehuda Chosid. Even those who are normally generally makbid, according to the Tzavor of Rabbi Yehuda Chosid, shelo lisaper b'Rosh Chodesh, not to shave on Rosh Chodesh itself, afilu k'shechol b'Erev Shabbos, even when it falls in Erev Shabbos. And by the way, he adds interestingly in the brackets, lo'olim k'shechol Rosh Chodesh Iyar b'Shabbos huchal af b'Erev Shabbos. Like I said, whenever Rosh Chodesh Iyar falls on a Shabbos, then inevitably the first ever Rosh Chodesh is going to fall on a Friday. This year, right? Friday Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh. So even those who are makbid, not to normally shave because of the Tzavor of Rabbi Yehuda Chosid, das Hagan Moshe Feinstein, shemikol makom b'Rosh Chodesh Iyar mutar nistape. Even those people are allowed to shave on Rosh Chodesh Iyar, i.e. Friday, mishum she'ef shelo hayol lisape l'kodim lachen, because they weren't able to do it prior, they weren't able to do it before because of Sfira, they're keeping the first half of Sfira. V'chein das Hagan Rabbi Yashiv, since this minhag not to shave on Rosh Chodesh is not a minhag kavua, it's not a sort of a fixed, established minhag, it's sort of a hakbada of the Tzavor of Rabbi Yehuda Chosid, those who are knowing it, therefore it's not considered a minhag kavua, and therefore he says, Mishum kach yesh lahatir lehistape al kol ponim b'Rosh Chodesh Iyar. There are those who are therefore lenient and allow you to shave on Rosh Chodesh Iyar, i.e. on Friday, lekovad Shabbos. However, not everyone agrees with that, and in the additional notes he brings Reb Vosna and also Yaakov Yisrael Kanievsky, the Discipler, who argue with that, and they should say that they should still avoid it. So, just to summarize, what have we said? That we are now in the Sfira Sa'oma period. There are three main restrictions: not to have weddings, not to get married. Number two, not to take haircuts and shave, and not to listen to music. Regarding the calculating the 33 days, there are three main minhagim, namely Pesach to Lag BaOmer, the first half, the second half, which is either from Rosh Chodesh, from the second of Iyar till Shavuos, or from Rosh Chodesh Iyar itself until the third of Iyar, the Shloshim Agbola. Or the third permutation is the entire Sfira Dak Rizal. However, for businesses to avoid financial loss, or for a bris that then taking haircuts and shaving is okay. And this year, when Rosh Chodesh Iyar falls on a Shabbos, this year it's Friday Shabbos, so then the Mishnah Berurah says that one is allowed to shave on Friday Lekovod Shabbos because of the double simcha of it being Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos. And even those who are normally makbid about the Tzavor Rabbi Yehuda Chosid, there are plenty of Moshe and Rabbi Yashiv both allow it. There are those who don't, but the Moshe and Rabbi Yashiv do allow it.